Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Energy News Beat podcast. My name's Stu Turley, President and CEO of the Sandstone Group. Today is March 12th, and I mean, we have got some stories for you. Venezuela stops taking U.S. deportees after Trump orders Chevron out. That's kind of a big deal. Strangling our economy. Report shows net zero hampers growth, doesn't lower emissions. And on the front of that picture, you got poor old Helga, whatever her name is. There, just she is a child that has been pampered and abused. There. Let's go to the next story here. Energy Secretary to shatter Biden's climate shackles, unleash U.S. energy boom. We love Chris Wright. He is absolutely on fire. Cheniere gets FERC OK for 2 more Corpus Christi LNG trains. Oil's China imports could rise as the newest refinery begins trial runs. Germany's new government is set to reshape its energy policies. This is following their announcements following that they want more nuclear weapons. So, boy, it's going to be an interesting time in Germany. So, let's start with Venezuela. Venezuela stops taking U.S. deportees after Trump orders Chevron out. Chevron's joint ventures with Venezuela's state oil company Petroles de la Venezuela were producing approximately 135,000 barrels per day, according to the independent estimates and shipping data. This figure marked a significant increase over 2022 levels. By February 2025, post-on reports indicated Chevron was producing around 220,000 to 235,000 barrels per day in Venezuela. That is from social media, but hey, it's pretty cool. Chevron's production targets were aimed higher, but Bloomberg says we'll stop receiving deportees from the U.S. to Donald Trump revoke Chevron's license. Oops. I can understand why President Trump is wanting to do that, but this is going to raise a little bit of another issue, and that is we need to import heavy oil, and so we're going to have to look at how and who we're importing the oil from. This comes on the heels of Scott Sheffield telling, I believe it was MSNBC News, that the reason Pioneer sold out to Exxon was because they had very depleted inventory for available drilling sites. So that is a huge issue right there. Let's go to the next story here. Strangling our economy. Report shows net zero hampers growth, doesn't lower emissions. A new report argues that net zero policies harm the economy, stifling growth, energy policy, and productivity while failing to reduce global emissions. Cutting greenhouse gas emissions was going to save the planet at no cost. Turns out it's an economy wrecker, which is more feature than a bug for many climate alarmists. You have Greta Thunberg there on the picture of that. And she has absolutely been used by her parents and run around and paraded around. That poor kid is just messed up. That's really sad. The results of the UK's decarbonization efforts appears to wreck economic growth, stalling living standards, high energy prices, and deindustrialization without denting rising global emissions, he wrote last week in the Telegraph. Net zero is strangling our economy, says the headline over Pickering's column, because limiting the available electricity has stifled productivity. So this falls along with, I jokingly talk with Michael about this, and that is the Turley's Law. The more that we invest in renewable wind, solar, and hydrogen, the more fossil fuels are used. So call it Turley's Law if you want. Maybe we add a byline to Turley's Law and is net zero equals deindustrialization. That could be another sideline there. So I'm just feeling sorry for the folks in the UK because you don't have the Second Amendment to get yourself out of this mess. Let's go to the next story here. Energy Secretary to shatter Biden's climate shackles, unleash the U.S. energy boom. Chris Wright is, again, the right man for the right job, and he is Chris Wright. So slam Biden's climate policies, vowing that Trump admin will prioritize energy, prosperity, and scientific realism. He characterized the Biden administration's maniacal focus on the climate change as counterproductive and impoverishing ordinary people, pledging to take a radically different approach than his predecessor by unleashing U.S. and energy private sector. The previous administration's climate policies are horrible. There are no winners in that world except the politicians and rapidly growing interest groups. The only interest groups that we're concerned about with is the American people. Our focus is steadfast on the American people and our allies abroad. Chris Wright, I absolutely love that saying. The only interest group that we are concerned about with is the American people. Oh my goodness, that is refreshing. The Trump administration will treat climate change for what it is, a global physical phenomenon that's a side effect of building the modern world. That's an interesting way to put it, and I kind of agree with it. The Trump administration is moving forward and will end the Biden administration's irrational, quasi religious policies on climate change. And I think that this is going to be something that we're going to see in the next few months, and that is additional graft and greed and corruption that net zero, that the climate policies have done, and they've been done intentionally. Yesterday, I released the 7P podcast. It was the podcast where George McMillan and I talked about how we got here. And how we got here is by design since the 60s to turn this into the left plan, to turn this into a communist regime. And we almost failed. Hats off to Secretary Wright, and I really applaud him. You have to understand how we got here, but yet more importantly, how we're going to get out of this problem. And I believe we're on the right track. Cheniere gets the okay for 2 more Corpus Christi LNG trains. This is huge. FERC said its approval dated January 10th had granted an application filed by Corpus Christi Liquefaction and CCL Midscale in March 2023. Man, since March of 2023 to get an approval process done? Hey, way to go, Chris Wright. Clear off that desk. The applicants are authorized under Section 3 of the NGA to site, construct, and operate the CCL Mid-Scale Trains 8 and 9 project and described in condition. This is exciting. Cheniere CEO Jeff Fresco recently commented that the company still expects to make final investment decisions to build 2 more mid-scale trains at Corpus. That's exciting. Way to go, Cheniere. And shout out to our sponsor, got to pay the bills. The sponsor of the Daily Show is Steve Reese with Reese Consulting. He let me know that with all of the things going on and the growth in the LNG and natural gas space, that there is a training issue. And if your employees need training, reach out to Steve Reese at Reese Consulting, ReeseEnergyConsulting.com. They are fabulous. But if you are looking to sell natural gas, if you're looking to buy or put in a power plant, you need Reese Consulting. Anyway, thank you again for our great sponsors. Let's go to the next story here. China's oil imports could rise as newest refinery begins trial runs. This is in the Shandong Yulong Petrochemical is set. I can't pronounce a lot of things, but I think I got that one. That's kind of funny. Is set to begin trial runs at its second of 200,000 barrels per day crude processing unit, increasing Chinese refining capacity. This expansion could lead to boost Chinese crude import despite recent declines. The refiner has been diversifying its crude sources, increasing purchases from West Africa and Brazil, and also Iraq. So go figure that out, Iran. So you got to sit back and they are taking ships in from the Dark Fleet. It's kind of fun to see how that goes through. But if they can buy everything that they can from Russia and Iran, they will. Germany's new government is set to reshape its energy policy. Germany's new coalition government is shifting energy policy, potentially rolling back an ambitious climate targets. The government plans a 500 billion infrastructure fund to upgrade the nation's aging power grids. Concerns over high energy cost and energy security are driving the new policy's decisions. They ramped up their clean energy spending under the previous coalition. Oh, it sounds like the UK, Delaware, New Jersey, California, New York. Where there is that kind of spending, there is deindustrialization. The other key developments taking shape for Germany's energy sector under the new government will be ramping up investments in its aging and insufficient power grids. But I want to know, are they looking at firing up the nuclear reactors that were shut down? The government did sneak in a purchase of a very large purchase of uranium from last year in Germany from Russia. So I've been waiting for the approval process on this. In fact, when I saw the article come out yesterday or day before that nuclear was changing their nuclear policies, it wasn't their nuclear plants. It was that they want to talk to President Trump about the nuclear U.S. NATO base nuclear weapons there. And if we pull out of NATO and we pull those nuclear weapons out, they're going to be kind of like naked. So they were wanting to figure out how they get and become a nuclear power again. So, but the wrong kind of nuclear power. Anyway, I just hats off for Germany. They don't have the Second Amendment, just like the UK, to defend themselves should they need to. Anyway, we hope the best for Germany and the UK, but I believe that the EU, UK, and Germany and NATO are financially and fiscally in trouble. Buckle up. It's going to be an interesting next few months. I'm excited to see the end of the Russia war, and hopefully let's get this thing going. So like, subscribe, share, go to the energynewsbeat.substack.com or go to energynewsbeat.com or energynewsbeat.co, and absolutely look forward to seeing you. If you're an energy expert, I want to talk to you on the podcast. I just recorded Alexander Duncan. He is a young man that is going to be taking on a rhino, and look forward to getting that podcast out there. If you are going to be running as an America First person, I want to interview you and get your story out there. If you're a Democrat with America First, let's check your voting record, but I'd still love to interview you. Anyway, have a great day. Have a good time.